Hello, everyone. Welcome to Yachting International Radio. You're Treen Racing from the Crew Coach on the Wellbeing Project. Today, this is the first time we've ever had a guest expert talking about this topic, and so important because it's part of our daily life, and that is change. So I have the founder of Open Room, and Helen is focused on change management, and she's helped many, many organizations. So we're very, very lucky to have her insights to be able to help us. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you. It's so great to be here and talk about something that impacts all of us on a day-to-day basis in a personal and team and or work capacity as well.
Fantastic. I know that you're passionate about change, and most people hate change. So why are you passionate about change?
I think it's something that we all deal with every day. And yes, I have studied how to manage change, how to help others with change, but it actually really just comes down to, well, we all need to figure our way through it. So where we can help ourselves and help others, why not? Because it is something that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Perfect. Now, as I just mentioned, people don't like change. Why do you think they find change difficult? And curious to know, in teams, what would be the sort of behaviors that you would see that would insinuate people are not open to the change?
Sure. So it's interesting. I think often we think, oh, change is something that we don't like. But actually, when there's a change that benefits us or we get excited about, we are not going to complain. We're not going to push back. We're going to really step into it because we're like, yay, this is great. I want to win the lottery or whatever it is, where it's something that you are like, I want to do this. So I suppose the question is when or why do we sometimes not like to step into a situation where we might feel overwhelmed by change? And that's often when we don't understand how it will benefit us.
Correct.
What is this about? So we say we want to do something differently, but why? Why must I care? How does it impact me? How am I going to benefit from that? So without those kind of connections at an emotional level to ourselves, or even at a head level, we will be like, oh, I'm not so sure about this. I don't know if I really want to step into this. I'm just going to sort of push back. So you'll often find, especially at sort of talk about a change or at the onset of kind of almost contemplating a change, there's often disengagement or a bit of denial, going like, no, I don't need to do that. We're fine doing it the way we've always done it. We're just going to kind of carry on doing what we're doing. Don't ask me to do something differently because that's not a good idea. So you'll push back, a bit of denial, a bit of resistance are very, very common because we haven't processed it yet. We haven't sort of thought about, well, is that maybe something that I should consider or we should consider as a team?
So as leaders think, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so you were asking about how we experienced change, but then you're also sort of saying how it shows up at the team level. So did I have captured that here?
Yeah, I feel like you certainly have. But Helen, so based on what you're saying there, I'm just wondering, I'm very much for developing soft skills because we certainly don't do it enough in our industry. Can you, not at the point of where change is coming, but prepare your team with those skills so when change does come, they're more receptive to it? Because that example that you shared is very common in our industry. On my previous boat, we did it this way. So why should we do it another way? My way is better.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to know is that if you are staying in your comfort zone, you're not growing. To step out of your comfort zone into an unknown place where you don't maybe know how to do something, or you haven't done it before, can be scary, it can be overwhelming, and there may be questions. But if you are not if you're not feeling uncomfortable, then you're not growing. Mm-hmm. So at an individual level, and I'll often say this to colleagues, is if you're not feeling uncomfortable, there's something wrong. Well, or you are allowing yourself to not grow, or to not learn, or to not develop. So it's a hard one, because you obviously don't want to go into so much discomfort that it creates anxiety and overwhelm, but you do want to be in a kind of constant state of creating a little bit of a fire where you are feeling like there's some momentum and movement. So yeah, I think for us as individuals, it's just to be aware of that. And then as teams, I think we've always there is some responsibility that we have to go, well, could we do this in a different way? Is there a better way? Is there a way that we haven't yet explored that it might, maybe we tried and it doesn't work, and that's also okay. But let's like just push ourselves a little bit to think differently, and to maybe try something, and to solution it together, and or trial it together. Yeah.
Perfect. So are you saying then as leaders, we definitely need to be patient. We need to give people time to climatize to change. But what I also think is important is creating a safe space where people can openly express their opinions and feelings about the change.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the number one thing, is that there could be an idea about a change, and the leader will often have sort of the thought starter on that. But leadership is no longer about the leader just being the expert and going, this is exactly what we're going to do. I mean, yes, that sometimes does happen when there's like very technical things that are required from an expertise perspective. But change requires conversations. It requires engagement. It requires, let's talk about this. How this is the direction which we are wanting to go in. How does everyone feel about it? What ideas does everyone have? It's very much about co-creating something. And that co-creation is not just about getting to a solution, but it's actually about the process of co-creation, which is so important for everyone to feel part of the change in the process. So it's engagement. It is about understanding the direction in which we're trying to get to and how that benefits individuals as well as the collective. And it is about having a little bit of the uncomfortableness of like knowing we need to actually do something differently. So I think if I had to sort of summarize, I think those would be the key things. Yeah, engagement, having the direction, but also creating something together. And you do need to talk about it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I think, especially in hierarchical structures, we think that we need to be more autocratic in our management style and say, do what I say. And that's really not always effective. I think when there's a crisis situation, an autocratic style of management is very effective, because you need things to be done fast and you need to think about the safety of others. But certainly with a more collaborative approach, you're going to see an increase in productivity and morale. Helen, I'm fascinated about the work that you do. How have you helped organizations? Because this is a really new field for our industry.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, most of my work's been with large organizations, but change doesn't happen at an organization level. It actually happens one person at a time. Yeah. So it starts with one person. And I always start with the leaders. So thinking about a recent change that we did where we moved, I think it was about 500 people from a building that they'd been in for 20 years to a new location a few kilometers down the road. And there was huge anxiety around that because they're like, we've been here, this is our home.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the suburb had become actually quite dangerous. There'd been like increasing crime. So there was a need to move the team, and they were moving to this beautiful new building with lots of light. So there was lots of benefits to move. But where we started there is we worked first with the leaders, and we got them to all agree on, well, what is it? What are we trying to do? What is our shared vision, our shared understanding of this project, and why are we doing it? And what is our role as leaders in leading this? And then we spent also a lot of time with the different team members, workshopping, focus groups. Let's understand it. Let's unpack this. What are you concerned about? What are you excited about? What do you need that we can help you to support you through this move? And even down to when you get to the new building, let's talk about the etiquette that we want to and the culture that we want to create. So not just around the practical things, but also around the, as you said, the softer things. So for me, there it was a large scale project, but what made it successful is that we really looked at all the different levels within the organization, and we made sure we engaged and we had opportunities and space for them to talk and have space to unpack what this meant for them, as well as figure out together what needed to look like on the other side. And then not just to let them, move on day one and then leave them. Handhold. And so that's the other thing with a change. It's like, oh, well, now it's done. Yes, but actually the part after the change is just as important. So if it is a change that happens on a specific day, you need to be there a month, a week after, a month after, check in, ask everyone how they're doing, what can be improved, what's working, what's not working. And then there are obviously other changes that are more gradual and incremental, and those ones as well just require constant engagement. I think if there's one thing that I want to sort of underline, or kind of the key thing to change, is conversations. Can't do change without having conversations.
Very well said. Helen, we're so lucky that you're coming into our membership to give a workshop on change. I know that one of our leadership students has a very, very good question to ask you, and I know a lot of our listeners are thinking the same thing, and that's around working your way or climbing up the ladder on board and fulfilling a leadership role and taking on a new set of responsibility where you've got to tell your friends what to do, and that can be quite uncomfortable. So how do you gain that respect in a more authoritative role? So I'd love to cover that in the workshop.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. It's a tough one because it's a whole new way of engaging when you're at a peer-to-peer level and then you're moving into a different relationship dynamic, and it can be very unsettling for both sides. So yeah, happy to cover that more in our workshop.
Thank you, Helen. And how can people learn more about you and what you do, or even contact you?
Oh, absolutely. So I do have Open Up Consulting website, and then haven't been that active on LinkedIn recently, but that is normally the best place to find me. So Helen Torr at LinkedIn. And then we also have an Open Room Consulting LinkedIn page as well. And it's really around, our speciality is around changes in workplace and moving to this new world of work, and how, work and the way of working is no longer as it was, and needing to really understand that in more detail. So that's our focus area. But yeah, that's enough about me. I can talk about this for hours.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I know how incredibly busy you are. So really, really appreciate it, Helen. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much.